Hey, good afternoon, AM 950 listeners. Doug Padgett in, 406. This is a very fine day. 2 days, I keep bringing this up, but 2 days before things start getting brighter. And I'm only speaking about the sky. No guarantees about your own life, your love life, your political life or anything, but things will be getting brighter in the sky. We're going to reach that winter solstice on Friday, and then the shortest day of sunlight, and then from there on out, things get brighter every day. So let's just keep our eye on the sky, and it's going to get brighter. And to all of you who are starting your preparations for holidays, whether that be the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, probably some other holidays in there people are celebrating. I have a number of friends, Eric, who have birthdays at this time of the season, and most of them are adults now. Well, I mean, everybody gets older. Most of my friends are adults. So they've kind of gotten over the fact that they have to complain about that they share their birthdays with all these other holidays.
I would hope so.
Yeah, but they like to, call it sort of when they get a happy holidays greeting, they take a birthday wish out of that. But if you're doing some holiday shopping, you just heard it in the commercial break there that Brett was encouraging you to think about the AM 950 advertisers. Or as we like to refer to them around here, the members of our community. So you as the community listening members and those as the community advertising members, we're going to bring those together next Wednesday, the day after Christmas, so December 26th, week from today. This 4 o'clock radio show is going to be broadcasting live from Chocolate Celeste over there off of 280 in University area. They have a little boutique, and you keep hearing about it. You're going to hear an ad for it, I'm sure. But we want to take you right inside the Chocolate Celeste boutique. And you're invited to come and do a live version of this radio show and taste some tasty chocolates. Now, if you're out and about on December 26th, and a lot of people are, they're out driving around, because some people like to get a jump on returning their Christmas gifts. If you're somebody that's received a Christmas gift, you might know that there's a lot of people who get real anxious about returning their Christmas gifts the day after Christmas. And I think the rationale for this is they want to make sure that when they bring it back to the store that they're going to get that full pricing if they don't have a receipt, right? Because they're worried that the things that whatever they got for Christmas is going to be deeply discounted after the holiday season. And then they're
my brother's one of those people.
Is he? Yeah, they're like up and early. It's kind
of a joke at this point.
Oh, is that right? Does he return everything you get him? Is he that guy?
Every single thing. Yeah. It's like, I actually want a different color.
Have you resorted to just buying him gift cards at this point?
No, I kind of lean into it now. Just get him like the most obnoxious thing to bring back to a store.
That's a fun idea. If I had someone like that on my list, I would buy them something that I thought them standing in line to have to return, there would be some explaining to do, right? Where they would just feel so awkward about having to return that particular item.
Expensive enough that they want to return it, but still
totally
so embarrassing.
Yes, yeah, hey, there's a brotherly prank for you. But so people are up and out, your brother and all, and they're moving around. So if you're one of those people and you think at 4 o'clock, boy, you know what I've got a real hankering for? I got a real hankering for a live radio show, because nothing says visual stimulation like a radio show. So if you can be there live, I mean, this is really the creme de la creme. But it's also going to be over there at Chocolate Celeste, and they make chocolates. And so if you're looking for a little sweet and caffeinated pick-me-up, then join us. And if you're not into caffeine, I don't know if they have decaffeinated chocolates. I would sure hope so. But you could join us over there. We'd love to have you come and be part of the live audience. I think that would be really fun. And we'd also love to have you be tasting the chocolates. We're going to have some fun with it. It's going to be lively. So any of you regular listeners, regular callers, you know who I'm talking to. Mark, Gary, Randy from Coon Rapids. Let's get you showing up there in person over at Chocolate Celeste. Google it for the address. That's probably the easiest way I could describe it for you, but it's over off of University Avenue and 280. But if even in the meantime you're thinking, you know what I need is I need a good solid Christmas gift. I would suggest a gift card. But if not, maybe go on their website, chocolateceleste.com, and pick up a set of customized chocolates for somebody important in your life. You can put together your own list of what you want in the chocolate box. And Someone sent me, Eric. This is partly why I've been so excited about having the show over there at Chocolate Celeste. This week, a friend who lives in New York from some other place, not Chocolate Celeste, sent us a box of chocolates. I mean, it was like a veritable scene from Forrest Gump around my house.
Yeah.
And boy, I don't know. Have you ever received a top quality box of chocolates from someone?
I have a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, like really good ones, you know, like not just the I don't know. It just feels to me like there's
not the Walgreens
qualities.
brand or whatever.
No, that's what I'm talking about. The really good quality ones there that have the cherries in the middle.
Uh-huh.
No. These are like the really good and tasty ones. Boy,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. It perks up your life. Like it just really. I mean, you're looking at this box and you're thinking, I have to choose carefully. What mood am I in? It's a full experience. In fact, on the Chocolate Celeste website, they even talk about how they want you to experience their chocolates. This is a whole section on the website. Wow. It ends with these 5 words: indulge, period, gift, period, start an obsession. Frankly, any website that wants to use the word indulge and start an obsession, I find sort of interesting. The fact that it's a chocolates website is its own level of interesting. So anyway, I'd love for you to join us over at the Chocolate Celeste next Wednesday, a week from today, day after Christmas, if you're out returning Christmas gifts, or if you're not and you're just in that like post Christmas Day doldrums, which that's what I experience, sort of the day after Christmas, that you're a little worn out, a little tired of the family, a little tired of all the hubbub, super tired of the Christmas music, which, by the way, the Christmas music needs to end at 11:59 and 59 seconds on December 25th in my book of a perfect world. But if you're thinking, you know what I need, I just want to get out, come and join us 4:00 over there. We'd love to have you. And any of the regulars, be sure to join us and message me if you're going to be there. If you're one of the regular callers or a regular listener and you want to have a little role in the radio show that day, I think it's going to be an awful lot of fun. All right, so some things going on in the state of Minnesota, not just happening with our show going on the road next week. Eric, I don't know if you saw this, but there's a nice big article about the hot Christmas gift this Christmas is not chocolates. But it's kind of in the same category. Cannabis.
Oh, okay.
Cannabis. And this isn't like a bunch of college kids selling each other little bags of it for Christmas. This is the CBD oil. This thing.
Sure.
Where it's. Are you familiar with that? Do you take it yourself?
Yeah.
Do you know anybody?
Well, I did the Healthy Living Expo this year for the AM950 booth, and there were a ton of samples. So yeah, I was running around all over getting free samples.
Really? Did you feel like it took care of any of your anxiety?
I don't think I had any anxiety at the moment, but I could definitely feel like physically more relaxed.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never used how do you put this? Cannabis in the oil form.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
CBD isolated.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. I've never used a CBD oil. I've benefited from the root product here when I was a younger man earlier in life. Not proud of those days, but it's apparently a really big deal right now, growing so fast. And Minnesota is one of the places because we got out in front with legalization of medical marijuana, which allowed the entire industry to grow. No pun intended, but I wish it had been intended. It allowed it to grow and to blossom in a new way. So much so that it has gained the level of attraction that Coca-Cola has admitted to its own interest in getting into CBD oils, saying, and this is a classic sort of corporate quote, "We're closely watching the growth of non-psychoactive CBD as an ingredient in functional wellness beverages around the world." Yep. Coca-Cola thinking about getting in the business of CBD-infused drinks.
I mean, they already have the coca-infused drinks, right?
Well, that's what I was thinking.
That's the origins.
They're getting back to their roots. Good for you, Coca-Cola. I mean, it's just great that they didn't even feel like they had to change that whole marketing pitch. Yeah. But there's all kinds of people. In fact, I'd be interested to know, this is such a big Minnesota story. I'd be interested to know from many callers if they use CBD oil and how they do. So if you're one of those people, 952-946-6205. Now, I know I'm having a little fun with it. And, anytime you sort of make a hemp joke or a marijuana joke or a CBD oil joke, there's some people who, even if they use those products, they can still feel a little, a little awkward about pushing it. But boy, there are people who use it for all kinds of ailments and all kinds of things. And it's become just a normal part of a lot of people's lives, from their own use of it or what they're using for their pets. And it's a really big deal in Minnesota. The growth of CBD oil in this state is a super big deal. So last minute gift ideas. If you need to pick up like I would suggest CBD oil more for like that New Year's Eve party gift. I don't know. It just seems like it would be befitting. So if you've already got your other secular religious holidays gifts taken care of, consider a little CBD oil apparently for the New Year's Eve gift, because in the state of Minnesota it's become the new hot thing for Christmas buying. So give us a call here if you're into that stuff, 952-946-6205, or if you just want to put yourself on the RSVP list for being over at Chocolate Celeste next Wednesday. So AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Doug Padgett will be back here after the break. Hey, welcome back, AM 950 listeners. Doug Padgett in today, 421 on this day. Hey, we often use the Bruce Springsteen band as our house band around here. And Eric, I don't know if you're a Bruce Springsteen fan yet, but if you're not one already, friends and all, I will encourage you to go on Netflix and watch the Bruce Springsteen live from Broadway, Bruce Springsteen on Broadway film. Basically, it's a performance that he did for a year, a one-man show off Broadway. Incredible. If you are a fan already.
Is it his music?
It's his music. It's just him. It's 2.5 hours long. It's a performance. I had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, of going and seeing it live. And he talks, he describes the music, he creates sort of a narrative. It's scripted, performed with the talking and the music, and it is unbelievably great. Now I'm an Uber fan, so I think very highly of it, and I'm hanging on every word. But I do think people that aren't that level of fans, but you have some marginal level of interest, that's a great way to spend 2.5 hours some evening.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out, because that kind of defines me. I like him, but I just don't know a lot about Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, well, it's going to treat you well, my friend. You're going to have a great experience with it.
Let you know how I liked it.
Yeah, now that he's done with that, I'm just hoping to have him on the show. So I'm just trying to follow up with him, but I don't tend to hear back when I reach out to him. That's probably because of the cease and desist order that he sent that one time. But
those things are annoying.
Yeah, being a super fan. Hey, there's a lot happening in the federal level of people committing crimes and being prosecuted by federal agents, including people that work for Donald Trump and his kids and a whole bunch of others. But there's two local stories that I really caught my eye today, and they both came out, and they have to do with severe penalties for committing wire, mail, and tax fraud. And I think they're both worth noting just on their Minnesota merits alone, but also because I think they give an indication as to what level of engagement there is from the federal prosecutors when people commit wire fraud, mail fraud, and tax fraud. And one of them is a person who was the president of a company called Starkey. Now, I had never heard of Starkey. I didn't know what it was, called Starkey Laboratories. And Jerry Ruzicka was the president, and he was charged with and found guilty of embezzling nearly $19 million and setting up a whole lot of other sort of self-benefiting projects inside of the company to help himself. And he was found guilty back in March, and he was sentenced today. The prosecutors wanted 20 years in prison. I mean, it's funny in our society, the kinds of things that you will get a serious criminal sentencing for. There are some things that you would think somebody would earn a serious penalty for, and they don't. And then there's other things, like, as it turns out, stealing stuff from a mailbox, committing mail fraud. Like the commitment of this country to preserve its mail system and to not commit mail fraud or steal things out of the mail system has been around since, the founding of the country via the Constitution. But man, these people get in serious trouble. Now, the judge in the case I shouldn't say only, but Ruzicka was given 7 years in prison when the prosecutor wanted 20. And it's very similar to what happened yesterday with Mike Flynn. In this case, going the other direction, where the judge was like, hold on a second. I know what the prosecutor is saying here, that we should go easy on you, but I find your crimes to be really reprehensible, and I'm the one who sets the sentencing. Which was a good reminder for me yesterday in these two articles about Minnesota. People caught up in very similar stories today. It's a good reminder that we do have this, what we often refer to as a checks and balances system, where you have the legislative branch, which we call Congress. You have the executive branch, which at the federal level we call the president. But then you have the judicial branch. And I always think about the judicial branch as kind of the little brother. Sort of, right? Like, I know it's part of the family, but he's kind of the younger one still finding his legs, right? Like,
that's the quiet one.
Yeah, the quiet one. Until these judges are like, oh, hold on a second. This is an equal branch of the state, local, or in all three of these cases, federal government. And when a federal judge decides to share her opinion, it's a big opinion. It's equal to the prosecutors on the criminal side and equal to the people who set the laws on the state or federal side. So it's just a good reminder how powerful judges are. On the other hand, it's the part of the system, these judges, that's just riddled with discretion. And it's kind of troubling, right? Mm-hmm. The judge said in this case to Jerry, I don't know if I'm still saying his name right, Ruzicka. The prosecutor was quite irritated because apparently the former president of Starkey Laboratories didn't show any remorse for these crimes he was found guilty of, sort of flaunting at them. And the judge said, this is a quote, this is Judge John Thunheim said to Ruzicka, I think in many ways you're a good person. You helped a lot of people. And in many ways, you are responsible for Starkey's success over the years because of your leadership. But obviously, things went too far, and we have to respect the jury's decisions. Now, Starkey Laboratories is the largest maker of hearing aids. Good work. Good for them. They create hearing aids. People need them. They benefit from them. I'm sure they had great advancements. I'm sure it's really hard to run a company that makes hearing aids. I just don't like the idea that there's a law. Someone breaks the law by committing wire fraud, mail fraud, and tax evasion. And then a judge is like, but you really worked hard at your job. You really gave a lot. Or hey,
those two things seem kind of unrelated.
Right. You served in the military and now you're a criminal. But I should remember what you did 30 years ago. I should remember you ran a good company, and I'm sure you're a good guy. I really don't want you to have the penalty for the thing you did. Like this kind of capricious decision making on sentencing or prosecutorial discretion makes people feel like the system isn't fair. If in the judge's eyes you're a good guy or a good person, then, we're going to go a little easier on you. And somebody who's had a hard time, made a series of bad decisions, the fact that their previous bad decisions compound in their current choices seems really unfair on the other side. In the second story, and this is a person who was running a mail order scam out of Chaska, and his name is Wayne Dahl Jr. He was running this scam where he's having his workers call and sell magazines to people and trick them into buying things, and really targeting people who were elderly and were able to be easily duped, as the article says it. And he bilked people out of $10 million. First of all, I didn't know there was that kind of money in magazine subscriptions. Anyway, $10 million. And the end of the article ends with, Dahl has been a small-scale trouble with the law over his entire life, and then lists a number of ways he got in trouble, including driving under the influence and other things that he did. And the idea that he's going to be treated worse because of his past, and this other guy is the kind of person the judge likes, this is what gets troubling to me. So we can talk about that if you want to after the break, too. AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. In the distance, I could see the... Here we go. Hey, welcome back, AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota listeners. Doug Padgett in today. It's dark already. As I say, a couple more days, we're just going to be feeling like brightness is taking over the sky. Hey, Eric, I don't know if you saw this. There's been all this worry that the state of Minnesota could lose one of its congressional seats. Now, this is a little confusing if you don't follow how the United States of America divvies up its congressional seats. You know, we have one president. That's pretty clear. Every state gets 2 senators, no matter what state you're from. Mm-hmm. As it turns out, the House of Representatives, since 1913, has had 435.
Yeah.
That's kind of an established number. Now, that number could go up. Sometimes it's gone up, it's gone down, but it's been pretty well consistent since 1913. So that's the number, 435. And each state receives a number of that 435 congressional districts based on its population. So you're in competition with the other state's population. Every state's guaranteed at least one. And I think it might be like, I don't know, Montana or something that has one. Is that right?
I think there's a couple. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, they just have one. It's awesome. But anyway, in the state of Minnesota, we have 8. Currently. But there's all kinds of worry that the state of Minnesota is going to lose one. And so the predictions about how the numbers are going to come back in the 2020 census are out. So here's the thing. If you've ever thought that somehow you want to avoid being counted in the 2020 census, and there's some people who do, they worry about these things for whatever reason, for many reasons, just on... as a favor to the rest of us, sort of raise your hand in 2020 when they come by for the census, if they're there to confirm it. Because the state of Minnesota is right on the bubble, they think, in the predictions. Apparently, we have grown by nearly 6% in the last 3 years, which is great. They were pretty sure a few years ago, in this 10-year rolling census, that we were going to lose a congressional seat. It just seemed that way. But the growth is happening, 6% growth, which seems great. And this big change in our state's population. And the state of Minnesota, the estimates are that it's going to come back in 2020, topping 5.6 million people. I mean, I'd love to see that number get up to solid 6, but we can round up. Nearly 6 million people in the state of Minnesota. So we've been growing like crazy. And you would think, okay, well, there we go. 6% growth. We're doing great. We're going to keep that. We're going to keep that congressional district. But as it turns out, 9 other states in that pesky District of Columbia have experienced double-digit growth in the same amount of time. So, you kind of have to play that on a curve. That when the other states do well, we have to do even better. So, of this 435. They're going to be divided up, and we're only going to get our portion based on our population. And the population is the number of people. It's not the number of voters. It's not the number of people over a certain age. It's not the number of workers. It's nothing. It's just people. So I don't know. I say we start a campaign to move some people in. I don't know. We pluck them out of North Dakota. We're only going to get one anyway. Hey, Mark, up in Fridley, how you doing, buddy? And you've got some thoughts on this. Hey, Mark.
You bet, Doug. And again, this is all census related.
Yeah.
So we take the census once every 10 years, and, you know, it's important that people comply with that, because that's how districts get drawn and House seats and government seats and things of that nature. But what I wanted to talk about is what you were talking about earlier, and that's what we should all demand from our government, and that's an equal application of the laws.
Yeah.
For Eric, I question not to have anxiety. I'd like to know what you're doing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, he's easy going.
If you don't, you know, please share your secret with me. Because
how's that CBD oil going for you there, Mark?
People should be freaking out.
Okay.
But equal application of the laws. And like I said, I would like to see the people that cause people to lose thousands of their jobs be punished in accordance with how many people their crimes actually destroy and how many people's lives are destroyed. In Europe, in China, in other parts of the world, bankers actually get thrown in jail.
Yeah.
And the perfect model for that was Iceland. Iceland was the first country to recover from the 2008 financial collapse because they threw bankers in jail instead of bailing them out and clawed back money.
Yeah, and I seem to remember, wasn't Iceland even a kind of a center of financial services around that time? Like they...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the banking institute, and what they did is that people were attracted to Iceland because they were considered to be a little bit lax on regulation and oversight until the collapse hit. Well, what the people of Iceland and the government of Iceland and the politicians of Iceland said, who created this problem? Who did this to us? And we need to have people, and we tried to get laws enacted in financial regulation, and again, they have this thing in the Justice Department called deferred prosecution agreements.
Yeah, right.
And that means if you cooperate, we're going to give you a free pass. But a friend of mine recently died of cancer, and it came on extremely quickly. And she came to me a couple of years ago and said that their house was illegally foreclosed upon by Wells Fargo Corporation, and they lost everything. And I said, well, there's a class action lawsuit right now involved with Wells Fargo claimants. And so I gave her the information to be a participant in the class action lawsuit. And eventually, she did get a check.
Good.
For $79.
That's how it goes.
And she said,
"Yeah,
I didn't cash it. I put, So Mark Zuckerberg today, if anybody's been paying attention, Facebook again admitted that they've been selling, dealing, trading, manipulating, exploiting your personal information for years, despite how many apologies he gave to our senators. Yeah. He lied to Congress.
There's no doubt that when you're involved in any of these things where you're using your data as their product, they are selling it. Hey, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. We're gonna grab onto a couple of other callers here. Really appreciate the call. Hey, David, in San Fran, you have a little conversation about congressional districts.
Yeah, I've been really bugged by something that happened in 1914 that is basically what you're talking about.
You need some CBD oil to get over that.
The original Constitution said that America would get a new congressman for every 30,000 people. And, in fact, the Founding Fathers said that a congressional district would be best if it was somewhere between 25 and 40,000 people per district. And somewhere in the mid or early 1800s, it got bumped up to 60,000, which was basically a scam against our taxation with representation. But in 1914, it even became worse because they topped out Congress at 435 members.
Yeah.
And so now the congressional district is over 800,000 by average. And you remember over in Montana, they've got that congressman that beat up the reporter a couple of years ago. If you think about Montana's population, the original Constitution, they should have 19 congressmen, but they've only got one. And when you ask the congressman where he stands on taxation with representation, whack, you're going to get sucker punched.
Yeah. So, because that was the question, wasn't it? Yeah, that reporter asked that congressman in Montana was something about representation. What, David? Do you have any idea why? I mean, I guess to if you ran the numbers, you'd think like, well, you can't have a Congress that has, 3,000 representatives. It would just become unmanageable.
Actually, it'd be higher than that. It'd be about 5,500.
Okay, I was trying to do the fast math. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds outrageous, but with the internet, with electronic voting, it's possible to do it. And in fact, I think China and there are a couple of other countries, if I remember right. I think India has also got a Congress that has thousands of members. But the point is that basically our problem is that they've monopolized Congress in such a way that with congressmen with expanding workloads, they always have an excuse why they can't do the right thing.
Hey, that's a great point.
And then what's worse is that if you blackmail your congressman and he stays in office, that blackmail is more likely to supersede the will of the voters than the common sense or reality.
Hey, thank you, David. I appreciate that call.
Eyes, we've got to get back.
Yeah, thank you, David. Really, really appreciate it. We just have a couple of minutes left. I want to grab the other David in Shakopee. Hey, David.
Hi, how you doing? I want to expand on that because, we're talking about representation and all that stuff. But when we rebelled against, England, we didn't just rebel against England. We rebelled against the class structure that Europe had at the time, which was, the nobles. We didn't want that. We didn't want lords and ladies and dukes and all that stuff because it was basically an immortal system. Sure, somebody would die, but the next person came in, their heir would come in and take over, and it was a system that, no one could grow out of.
Nice.
We've done the same, what we've done is we've done the same thing here. We've just changed the name of it. We call them corporations. We've made them people, and they're immortal. And an immortal person is always going to outdo a mortal person. We can never beat them as long as they are immortal.
And you're saying that it's not the Congress women and men who are the lords and ladies. You're saying it's the corporations. Walk me through that. How'd you get to that?
Have become the lords and ladies because by giving them personhood, we've created a nobility, a class structure. We're saying they're people and they have the rights of people, but they're not people. By calling them people, we've turned them into the lords and ladies, the dukes and duchesses, all of that.
Nice.
So they have power across generations. So of course they can control Congress because Congress people know these people have been in power for 50, 60 years, and they'll be in power for another 50 or 60 years.
That is fascinating because, I guess if you were to, think about how we have a class structure that allows for so few representatives per population, this notion that, and I think what you're raising is the idea that the Supreme Court wants to grant to corporations rights that we used to only have available to individuals, that would even get more wild. David, thanks so much for the call. I really appreciate it. Hey, we'll be back here after the break. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Hey, welcome back, AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota listeners. Can't stop thinking about David's comments about corporations and all, but when he said that the rebellion against England was driven by the desire to not have nobles, lords, ladies, and dukes, and I just can't get that lords and ladies out of my mind. A little bit 12 Days of Christmas, I guess, but I don't know. It'd just be. I'm not saying we should give people the kind of respect that they were forced to give them in such systems of lords and ladies, but I don't know. It's just something more fun than talking about someone as just a congressperson. a lord and a lady. Seems sort of fun way to think about the people who are setting laws and establishing those. But I get the point, and it's a big deal. So the census is happening. It's going to be forming, and all I can say is if we're on the bubble between 8 congressional districts, and 7, we really want to have 8. We want more representation. You don't want to take that 80,000 people or 800,000 people and move it back around, have to spread it out over all the other 7 districts, because that just limits our access to representation. And boy, the other David's thoughts have me reeling about, is there some way to figure out how to have more constituent services, at least? Because there's 2 things that our Congress people do. One is they're supposed to do constituency services and be the on the ground, close to you representative. But if they got 800,000 people on average, it's really hard to represent that number of people in a more complex governmental system. Anyway, hey, we can't solve all of those problems right now, but we can, do what we can to boost the population. And what you can do next Wednesday is plan to join us over at Chocolat Celeste for a sweet treat and radio show, a live one. So all of you callers that called in today, think about heading over there and joining us live. I'll have a couple of extra microphones I'll set up. It'll be fun. We'll set up some mics, and you can not just call in. We'll call you right out of the audience. You can come sit down and have a little have a little chat about all this. One of the things I would love to do is invite Governor Dayton. His outgoing days, I'm sure, with all of his issues and his back issues, he doesn't have time. And the heavy work that Governor Dayton has to do, he can't possibly be there with us. Like this story from yesterday, where I don't know, Eric, if you saw this one, but Governor Dayton, there's a lot of power that comes with being the governor. I guess a governor is one of those close titles, as being close to the lords and ladies. But being a governor, you have great influence over the state of Minnesota. You're the single representative in that role. You're not divided like you are in the state's House and the state Senate. You're it, and so you represent everybody, and you have a lot of influence, and you have a lot of responsibility. It's a hard job. I hope Governor-elect Walz is ready for it. It's not going to be a waltz, I'll tell you that. It's going to be a lot of work. So Governor Dayton had to use his gubernatorial powers. Do you know what he used them for yesterday, Eric? Did you follow this story?
No, I don't think I've heard anything.
He thought about the interests of Minnesotans, and he used his leverage in a phone call to do what he could to be sure that Garth Brooks was going to provide 2 concerts and not just one at U.S. Bank Stadium.
Thank God.
Yeah, Garth Brooks. Apparently, Garth Brooks, 2 surprising facts, still performing. Maybe like someone when they heard me say, I went and saw Bruce Springsteen live, and they're like, that guy from Born in the USA still making music? Anyway, Garth Brooks is too. Shocker. And Garth Brooks sold out U.S. Bank Stadium in like 14 seconds.
Really?
Sold it out, apparently, according to Ticketmaster, had more people on hold and online trying to buy tickets than there were seats for the first concert. So he had the capacity to sell it out twice.
That's incredible. I knew he was popular, but I didn't know to that extent.
I got to tell you, I don't know a Garth Brooks song. I think he sings one called I Thank God for Unanswered Prayer or something. That's all I know. I admit I'm not up on this young kid's music. If that's what Garth Brooks is, who's got to be 50. But anyway, Garth Brooks sold it out, and for some reason, that caused Governor Dayton to not only reach out to Garth Brooks and ask him personally to think about the people of the state of Minnesota and to offer another concert. But then
I just got a call that apparently Garth Brooks had sold out Target Center 11 days in a row a couple years ago.
Oh my gosh, is that true?
Yeah, apparently. That's unbelievable.
Well, maybe that's why they had to move him over to the U.S. Bank Stadium a decade later, hoping that would fill it. Wow, that's seriously impressive. I feel like I want to go. I'm not sure when it is. I'm guessing it's summertime.
Yeah, it has to be something, you know?
But I'm just thinking, like, if this is important enough that the governor, in his waning days of being the governor, like the things you have left to do before the big recess and the turnover of power is to call. I guess this is the stuff a governor has to do. And I'm mocking him. I get it. I'm making a little fun of the fact that this is what the governor uses his time for. And I just wonder if Governor Dayton was like, okay, seriously, like the thing I have to do in my waning days after trying to lead this state as the governor for these years. Now I got to call and beg Garth Brooks to do another concert. This is what it's come to. I guess I hope. Yeah.
Oh, I'll let you go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, these are the kind of things that people remember their governor fondly for, you know? It's like, oh, he saved the Garth Brooks concert.
Well, you know, that's probably the sad truth, isn't it? That's because I was trying to think, why does the governor let people know this? And then Garth Brooks is like, hey, you know, when the governor called and asked me to do another concert, I was like, I'd be glad to, you know, if there's a, but look, Garth Brooks, I can't even imagine why, if he thinks I could sell another sold out show at a football stadium without having to travel or set up again. Like, I don't know how the economy of concerts work, but I'd imagine if you don't have to set up twice, and you can just sell it out. That's where the money is. That's where the profits are. But anyway, so the governor worrying about things big and small, and I just hope that you know this goes on the list of the things that are small. So all the important things we talk about, and I've tried to go all day today without talking about the devastation that is Donald Trump. On this country and the important things. Just the idea that the governor of Minnesota is calling music legends to get him to do another concert is pretty. I can't really reconcile if I think it's awesome or if I think it's utterly ridiculous that this is what it takes to be the governor. Maybe that's why I'll never be governor, because I just don't want to have to think about those things. That's the only reason I can think of. Well, hey, if you're thinking of your afternoon, evening plans next week, a week from today, just one final reminder: we're going to be doing the show live from Chocolate Celeste over off of 280 University area. We'd love to have you join us. It'll be on the Facebook pages here on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. And you can, of course, look up Chocolate Celeste or just Google it or ask your Siri or whatever your googly name thing is to drive you there. And I'd love to see you over there if you want to come out. I think it'll be fun. I know it's not a lot of notice, but we'd still love to have you. And I'm off tomorrow, but I'd love to see you here on Friday. Be talking astrophysicist Paul Wallace at the time, too. So enjoy the day. We'll talk to you at the winter solstice on Friday. AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. This is Radio